Commander Daeho Kim stood at the main window of Luna Base 7, watching Earth turn slowly in the darkness of space. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, but Daeho knew better. Earth was a world of storms, earthquakes, and creatures that killed to survive. Most humans had learned to live with danger every day. The alarm bell rang through the base. Daeho ran to the communication room where his team was gathering around the screens. Something was different about this alarm. It was not the usual warning about space rocks or broken satellites. "Commander, you need to hear this," said Officer Young-mi BAE. She looked worried. "We got a signal from deep space. It's not from any human ship." Daeho put on his headset. Strange sounds filled his ears. The voice was soft and musical, but there was fear in it. The words were in no language he knew, but the computer was working to translate them. "This is the Galactic Confederation of Peaceful Worlds," the translation appeared on his screen. "We send this message to all worlds that can hear us. We need help. The ancient enemy has returned. They consume everything. Please, if anyone can fight, we are dying." The room went quiet. For years, humans had sent messages to the stars asking if anyone was out there. They had never gotten an answer. Now the first message from aliens was a cry for help. "Run it again," Daeho said. The message played several more times. Each time, the fear in the alien voice became more clear. These beings were not trying to invade Earth or demand anything. They were asking for help against something that scared them very much. Captain Nari Park arrived at the base 2 hours later. She was Earth's best expert on alien languages and had been studying the message during her flight from Seoul. Nari was small, but very smart, and she always asked the right questions. "The language is beautiful," she told Daeho as they walked through the base. "It has no words for war, weapons, or killing. These aliens seem to be peaceful people." "Then why are they asking for help in a fight?" Daeho asked. Na-Ri stopped walking and looked at him. "Because something is hunting them, and they don't know how to hunt back." They entered the main meeting room where the Earth Council was gathering by video link. President Min-ho Lee appeared, on the big screen looking tired. General So-young Choi was there too, along with other leaders from around the world. "What do we know?" President Lee asked. Na-Ri stepped forward. "The aliens call themselves the Confederation of Peaceful Worlds. From what I can understand, they have many different species working together. They've been watching us for years but never made contact because they think Earth is too dangerous." "Dangerous how?" asked Dr. Won-sik Jung, the head of Earth Science Council. "They call us Deathworlders," Nari explained. "They think our planet is so full of things that can kill us that we became violent just to survive. Most alien worlds are gentle places where nothing fights or hurts anything else." General Choi laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "So they think we're too mean to be their friends, but now they want our help? The enemy they're fighting is called the Void Swarm," Nari continued. "It's some kind of group mind that takes over other life forms. The swarm has been gone for thousands of years, but now it's back. It's eating whole worlds, turning everything into part of itself." President Lee was quiet for a moment. "How many worlds have they lost?" 12 so far, and more are falling every day. Their weapons don't work against this swarm. They tried to fight, but they don't really know how to fight." The room was silent as everyone thought about this. Daeho looked at the faces on the screens. Some looked scared, others looked excited, a few looked angry. "Why should we help them?" asked Council Member Haiwan Ko from Tokyo. "They never wanted to talk to us before. They thought we were too violent to be friends." "Because it's the right thing to do," said General Choi, "and because if this swarm is as bad as they say, it might come for us next." As if her words were magic, alarms began ringing again. Officer Young-mi ran into the room with a datapad in her hands. "Commander, we have a problem," she said. "Our deep space scanners are picking up movement at the edge of our solar system. Unknown ships moving in patterns we've never seen before." Dr. Ji Woo Kang, who had been quiet until now, looked up from his computer. He was Earth's best military mind, the man who planned how to fight wars that might never happen. "Show me the scan data," he said. The main screen changed to show a map of space around Earth. Small dots were moving near the outer planets, too far away to see clearly, but definitely there. How many? Dr. Kang asked. At least 50, maybe more. They're small, but they're moving fast and working together like a group of fish. Nari looked at the screen and then at the alien message translation. The Confederation said the swarm sends scouts before the main attack. Small ships that study the target and report back. President Lee stood up. How long before they reach Earth? If they keep moving at the same speed, maybe 2 weeks, Young Mi answered. The room exploded with voices as everyone started talking at once. Some wanted to hide and hope the aliens would go away. Others wanted to attack first. A few suggested, trying to talk to the swarm. General Choi's voice cut through the noise. We don't have time to argue. If these aliens are right, talking won't work with the swarm. It just takes over everything it touches. We need to decide right now. Do we help the Confederation fight this thing, or do we try to face it alone? Dr. Kang was still studying the scan data. General, I don't think we can face this alone. Look at how those scout ships move. They're working together like parts of one big brain. Our ships are built to fight other human ships, with human thinking. This is something completely different. Daeho had been quiet, but now he spoke up. The aliens came to us because they need soldiers who know how to kill. They're peaceful people, but we're not. Maybe that's not such a bad thing right now. President Lee looked around the room at all the faces on the screens. All in favor of responding to the Confederation's call for help? One by one, hands went up. It was not everyone, but it was enough. Nari, send a message back to the aliens, President Lee said. Tell them Earth accepts their call for help. Tell them we're sending ships and soldiers. What should I tell them? About payment? Nari asked. They might expect us to ask for something in return. President Lee was quiet for a moment. Tell them we don't want payment. Tell them that when someone calls for help against monsters, good people answer. As the meeting ended and people began making plans, Daeho looked out at Earth again. Soon, human ships would leave this system for the first time to fight in a war among the stars. Earth's children were going to war to save people they had never met, against an enemy they didn't understand. He wondered if the aliens really knew what they were asking for when they called the Deathworlders for help. Colonel Hyun-Woo Park stood on the training ground of Haven's Gate and watched alien cadets try to hold human weapons. A Velnari named Soft Rain struggled with a rifle that seemed too heavy for her misty hands. A Thexmol called Bright Edge kept dropping grenades because his crystal fingers couldn't feel the metal properly. This isn't working, muttered Sergeant Boram Shin. She had trained human soldiers for 15 years, but aliens were completely different. How do you teach someone to fight when they don't even understand what fighting means? Hyun-Woo watched. Soft Rain finally get a good grip on her rifle. She aimed at the target and fired. The bullet hit the edge of the target, and she immediately started crying silver tears. I hurt the target, she whispered. Even though it's not alive, I hurt it. Boram walked over and knelt beside the young Velnari. The target isn't alive, she said gently. You didn't hurt anything that could feel pain. But I wanted to hurt it, Soft Rain said. I aimed the weapon and wanted to destroy the target. That makes me a bad person. This was the problem they faced every day. The aliens felt guilty about everything, even practicing on fake targets. They had been peaceful for so long that they couldn't understand the difference between necessary violence and cruelty. Commander Yoon-ji Kim was having better luck with the flight training. The Velnari were natural pilots because they could float and think in 3 dimensions, but they hated the idea of using their graceful ships as weapons. Your ships are beautiful, Yoon-ji told a group of Velnari pilots. But the swarm doesn't care about beauty. They'll destroy your ships and turn you into part of their collective mind. We need to make your ships dangerous. She showed them how to mount human weapons on their delicate craft. Missile pods, kinetic cannons, even simple machine guns. Aliens winced at each addition. We are turning art into tools of death, said one pilot sadly. No, Yoon-ji corrected. You're turning art into tools of life. These weapons will save lives, not just take them. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Bright Edge, the Thex mole who couldn't hold grenades, had been experimenting with his own body. His species could grow crystal formations and control their shape. "Look what I can do," he said to Boram one day. His body glowed, and suddenly sharp crystal spikes shot out of his arms like arrows. They hit the target with perfect accuracy. "You made weapons from your own body?" Boram asked, amazed. "My people used to do this long ago before we learned peace," Bright Edge explained. "The old memories are still in our genes. We can grow crystal blades, throw crystal spears, even make explosive crystal charges." Within a week, the Thex mole had remembered how to be warriors. They could create any weapon they needed from their own bodies. More importantly, they didn't feel guilty about it because it was natural for them. Dr. Kyung-Ho Lim made the next important discovery. He had been studying pieces of destroyed swarm ships, trying to understand how they worked. What he found changed everything. "The swarm isn't as smart as we thought," he announced to the training staff. "They're very good at adapting to energy weapons and high technology, but they don't understand simple physical attacks." He showed them scan data from swarm bioships. "Look at this. Their hulls can absorb laser blasts and turn them into energy for their systems. They can adapt to plasma weapons in minutes, but they have no defense against a simple metal bullet." "Why not?" asked Hyunwoo. "Because the swarm is very old and very advanced. They evolved to fight other advanced species. They expect their enemies to use energy weapons and smart missiles. They never learned to defend against rocks and sticks." This news spread quickly through the training base. Suddenly, the aliens understood why human weapons were important. Their advanced technology was useless against the swarm, but human primitive weapons could hurt it. The first real test came when the swarm attacked the mining world of Kepler's Rest. Captain Sang-Min Jeon led a mixed squadron of human ships and modified alien craft to defend the world. Sang-Min commanded from a human destroyer, while Soft Rain flew alongside in her modified Vel Nari scout ship. The contrast was striking. His ship was gray metal in sharp angles, covered with weapons. Her ship looked like a silver butterfly with missile pods attached like ugly growths. "Remember," Sang-Min told the mixed squadron, "the swarm ships will try to adapt to our weapons. Keep switching between different types of attacks. Don't let them figure out a pattern." The swarm ships came in like a dark cloud. They were alive, growing and changing even as they flew. Their hulls pulsed with organic patterns and tentacles reached out toward the defending ships. "They're beautiful," whispered Soft Rain over the radio. "They're hungry," Sang-Min replied. "All squadrons, begin attack." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human ships fired simple metal bullets and chemical explosives, while alien ships used their own special abilities. The Thex mole created crystal barriers that channeled the humans' nuclear missiles into focused beams. The Velnari used their telepathic abilities to coordinate attacks across the entire battlefield. The swarm ships tried to adapt, growing new armor and changing their shapes. But they couldn't understand the primitive human weapons. Every time they thought they had adapted to bullets, the humans would switch to explosives. When they adapted to explosives, the humans would use poison gas. "It's working," shouted Bright Edge as his crystal spears punched through swarm armor. "They can't change fast enough." But the victory came with a price. 3 human ships were lost when swarm-boarding tentacles broke through their hulls. The aliens watched in horror as the tentacles grabbed human crew members and began changing them into swarm creatures. "We have to save them," Soft Rain cried, flying her ship toward the infected human vessel. "No," Sang-Min ordered. "Anyone touched by the swarm is already lost. We have to destroy that ship before the infection spreads." This was the hardest lesson for the aliens to learn. Sometimes, to save many lives, you had to sacrifice a few. Soft Rain sobbed as she fired missiles at the infected human ship, killing the crew to prevent them from becoming swarm creatures. After the battle, the surviving ships returned to Haven's Gate. The aliens were quiet and sad. They had won their first victory against the swarm, but the cost was higher than they had expected. 3 ships lost, 47 crew members dead, reported Lieutenant Haewon Soo. "But we saved 12 million lives on Kepler's Rest. The numbers should have felt like victory, but they didn't. The aliens struggled with what they called warrior's guilt, the weight of knowing that their actions had caused death, even when those actions saved more lives. Dr. Min-Jun Kil, a human psychologist, worked with the alien soldiers to help them understand their feelings. This guilt means you're still good people, he told them. The day you stop feeling sad about violence is the day you become monsters. Commander Yunji noticed something else. The aliens were getting better at fighting, but they were also getting harder. Soft Rain no longer cried when she fired her weapons. Bright Edge talked about his enemies like they were just targets to destroy. Are we losing ourselves? Asked Clearstone during one of their evening meetings. We came to you for help, but are we becoming like the swarm, creatures that only know how to destroy? Hyunwoo thought carefully before answering. The swarm destroys because it's their nature. You fight because you choose to protect others. That choice is what keeps you from becoming monsters. But even as he said it, Hyunwoo worried. War changed everyone it touched. The aliens were learning to be warriors, but what would they be like when the war was over? The answer came sooner than expected. Intelligence reports arrived, saying the swarm had learned from the battle at Kepler's Rest. They were adapting their tactics, and their next attack would be much worse. The real war was just beginning. Dr. Jiwoo Kang had never been to another star system before. No human had. As his ship came out of the strange tunnel of light that the aliens called a peace bridge, he saw his first alien world. Serenity Prime was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. The cities floated in the air like soap bubbles connected by bridges made of light. There were no walls, no weapons, no signs of war anywhere. Everything was soft colors and gentle curves. It looked like a dream. It's so clean, whispered Major Taejun Yu, standing beside him at the window. Taejun was Earth's weapons expert, and he looked uncomfortable. Where are their defenses, their military bases? I don't think they have any, Jiwoo said. The idea was hard to believe, but everything they had learned about these aliens suggested they really didn't fight each other. Captain Nari Park was working with the translation computers, trying to understand the welcome messages from the aliens. They're very excited to meet us, she said, but also scared. They keep asking if we brought enough weapons. The human ship landed at a port that seemed to be made of crystal and starlight. As they walked down the ramp, Jiwoo saw his first aliens. The Velnari looked like tall, thin people made of silver mist. They moved like dancers, floating just above the ground. Their leader, who called himself Peaceful Thought in Starlight, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Welcome, warriors from the Death World, he said through the translator. We are grateful you came, though we fear what we must ask you to do. The Thexmal were different. They looked like walking mountains, made of colored crystal. Their leader's name was too complex for the translator, so she told them to call her Clearstone. When she spoke, her whole body rang like a bell. We have prepared a place for you to show us your fighting ways, Clearstone said. But we must warn you, many of our people will be frightened. We have not seen violence in 1,000 years. Ji-woo looked at his team. Besides Nari and Taejun, he had brought Dr. Young-Soo Han, who studied how different minds work, and Lieutenant Hee-Jin Oh, their best scout. They were Earth's first team to make contact with aliens, and they were here to teach them how to kill Dot. The aliens led them to a large room with walls that showed the stars. Other alien species were there waiting. The insect-like clicktar made clicking sounds that the translator turned into nervous questions. The Zephyr looked like floating clouds and kept changing colors from blue to worried yellow. Before we begin, said Peaceful Thought in Starlight, we must ask, is it true that your people kill for food? Dr. Young-Soo stepped forward. He had studied the alien psychology files during the trip. Yes, but we also grow plants for food. We only kill what we need to survive. The aliens made sounds of surprise and fear. Some of the Zephyr turned bright red and floated toward the exits. And you fight your own kind? Asked Clearstone, her crystal body dimming. Sometimes, Young-Soo admitted. But we try to solve problems with words first. We only fight when we have to. "We do not understand," said a Clicktar through rapid clicking. "How can you choose to hurt others? Does it not cause you pain to cause pain?" Nari spoke up. "It does cause us pain. That's why we try not to fight unless we must. But sometimes not fighting causes more pain." The aliens talked among themselves in their musical languages. Jiwoo could see they were having trouble with the whole idea of violence. Finally, a peaceful thought in Starlight spoke again. "Show us your weapons. Show us how you fight the Void Swarm." Taejun set up a table with human weapons. He started with simple things: a knife, a gun that fired metal bullets, a grenade. The aliens moved back as if the weapons might attack them. "This fires small pieces of metal very fast," Taejun explained, holding up the gun. "The metal goes through the target and damages it." "You throw metal at your enemies?" asked Clearstone. "That seems primitive." "Sometimes the old ways work best," Taejun said. He activated a hologram showing how the gun worked. Several aliens made sick sounds and left the room. Next, he showed them a plasma rifle. "This one fires very hot energy, like a small sun." The aliens were more comfortable with this. Energy weapons made sense to them. But when Taejun showed them the chemical weapons, the room went silent. "These use poison gas to stop enemies from breathing," he explained. Avelnari began making a high, sad sound. "You poison the air itself? How can any life continue after such a thing?" Dr. Youngsu had to explain that humans had rules about chemical weapons, that they were only for the worst emergencies. But the aliens still looked horrified. Lieutenant Hyojin had been studying the data about the Void Swarm. Now she spoke up. "Your energy weapons don't work against the swarm because they adapt too quickly. But they've never seen weapons like ours. They won't know how to defend against metal bullets or poison gas." The aliens understood this, but they didn't like it. "There must be another way," said a Zephyr, its colors cycling through every shade of sadness. "Perhaps we can talk to the swarm, make peace." "You can't make peace with something that wants to eat you," Jiwoo said gently. "We studied the data you sent us. The swarm doesn't just kill, it takes over minds and makes them part of itself. It turns your own people against you." He activated a hologram showing swarm attack patterns. The aliens watched as their own worlds were consumed, their people changed into something else. "They're not evil," Jiwoo continued. "Evil requires choice. The swarm just does what it was made to do. But that makes it more dangerous, not less. You can't reason with a forest fire or bargain with a flood." Clearstone's crystal body flashed. Bright colors. "Then we must learn to be like you. We must learn to kill." "No," said Dr. Youngsu quickly. "You must learn to fight. Killing is just one tool for fighting. The best warriors win without killing if they can." Over the next few hours, the humans explained military strategy. They talked about planning attacks, gathering intelligence, protecting civilians. The aliens asked many questions, most of them about how humans could live with the guilt of violence. "We remember every life we take," Nari explained. "We build monuments to our enemies and pray for their spirits. Violence hurts us too, but we accept that hurt to protect others." A young Velnari who had been quiet spoke up. "In our oldest stories, before we learned peace, our ancestors were warriors. Maybe those old ways are still inside us somewhere." This seemed to give the other aliens hope. Maybe they could learn to fight without losing who they were. The meeting was interrupted when alarms began ringing throughout the city. A Clicktar messenger rushed in, clicking rapidly. "Swarm ships have appeared. At the Harmony system," the translator announced. "3 worlds, 50 million lives. They need help now." Jiwoo looked at his team, then at the aliens. "How long to get there?" 2 days by fast ship," said Peaceful Thought in Starlight. "Then we don't have time for more talking," Jiwoo said. "We'll have to learn by doing. Get us a ship and some volunteers. It's time for your people to see how Deathworlders fight." As they prepared to leave, Clearstone approached Jiwoo. "We are afraid," she admitted. "Not of the swarm, but of what we might become if we learn to be like you." Jiwoo put his hand on her crystal surface, feeling the vibrations of her worry. The fact that you're afraid of becoming monsters means you won't become monsters. That's the difference between warriors and killers. Warriors are afraid of their own power. As their ship prepared to jump to the Harmony system, Jiwoo looked back at the beautiful, peaceful world of Serenity Prime. Soon, some of its children would see violence for the first time. He hoped they would still be able to find peace when the war was over. Fleet Admiral Mi Young-song watched from the bridge of her flagship as two massive fleets prepared to jump to different battles. Half of humanity's ships would stay to defend Earth. The other half would join the alien fleet in the desperate attack on the core consciousness. "Are you sure about this plan?" asked Captain Jae-hyun Kang as he prepared to take command of Earth's defense. "Splitting our forces feels like exactly what the swarm wants us to do." Mi Young nodded. "It is what they want. But sometimes you have to do what the enemy expects because it's the only choice that gives you any chance at all." The alarms rang through the ship as swarm vessels appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. There were hundreds of them, more than anyone had expected. They moved like a school of hungry fish, heading straight for the blue world that had sent warriors to fight them. "All ships engage the enemy," Jae-hyun ordered as he took his ship toward the approaching swarm fleet. "Remember, these things learn from every battle. Keep changing your tactics. Don't let them adapt." The battle for Earth was like nothing the solar system had ever seen. Human ships fought desperately while the planet below prepared for the worst. On the surface, Mayor Sun Hee-oh of New Seoul was organizing the civilian population. "Everyone who can't fight needs to get to the underground shelters," she announced over the emergency broadcasts. "Everyone who can fight, grab whatever weapons you have. If those things land, we're going to show them what happens when you attack a death world." The humans on Earth had learned from the alien reports about swarm tactics. They knew the enemy would try to land troops and convert the population. But the swarm had never fought on a world like Earth, where even the civilians knew how to be dangerous. High school students built explosive devices from chemistry lab supplies. Farmers used their knowledge of pesticides to create poison gas traps. Office workers turned their buildings into mazes filled with hidden weapons. Every human had grown up on a world that tried to kill them daily, and now they would use that experience to fight back. The first swarm landing pods hit the ground, near Tokyo. Organic creatures that looked like giant insects poured out, ready to capture and convert the human population. Instead, they found themselves facing retired soldiers, angry parents, and teenagers who had played war games their entire lives. "Come on, then," shouted an old man named Chul-Soo Park as he fired a hunting rifle at a swarm creature. "You want to eat us? We've been fighting to survive since the day we were born." The swarm creatures were confused. They had conquered dozens of peaceful alien worlds where the inhabitants surrendered quickly, but these humans fought back with everything they had, turning every street into a battlefield and every building into a fortress. Meanwhile, Admiral In-ho Yoon was leading the combined human-alien fleet toward the core consciousness in the heart of what used to be the Helix Nebula. The journey took 3 days, and every hour brought them deeper into swarm territory. "The space around us is changing," reported navigator Subin Lee as she watched her instruments. "It's like the swarm is transforming empty space itself into part of their network." She was right. The stars were dimmer here, and strange organic growths floated between the ships like living asteroids. Worst of all, the crews could feel something pressing against their minds, trying to understand them and change them. "All telepathic species maintain mental shields," In-ho ordered. The Velnari were especially vulnerable because their natural telepathy made them easy targets for the swarm's mental influence. Soft-rain, now a veteran pilot despite her gentle nature, flew her modified scout ship close to In-ho's flagship. "Admiral, I can sense the core consciousness ahead of us. It's huge and it's angry." The core consciousness appeared on their screens as they approached. It was the size of a small moon, made of living metal that pulsed with organic patterns. Tentacles the size of city buildings reached out into space, and smaller swarm ships crawled over its surface like insects. "My God," whispered Dr. Ha-Yun Choi as she looked at the massive structure. "How are we supposed to fight something that big?" "The same way humans have always fought things bigger than themselves," In-ho replied. "We find the weak spot and hit it as hard as we can. The final battle began as the combined fleet engaged the thousands of swarm ships defending the core consciousness. Human destroyers fired kinetic weapons while alien cruisers created energy barriers to protect them. The Thexmol had modified their ships to launch crystal spears that could punch through swarm bio-armor. Commander Seok Jin-yu led his small assault team toward the core consciousness itself. His ship was loaded with Dr. Hyun's virus weapon and enough explosives to level a city. Getting inside the massive structure would require flying through its defensive tentacles and finding an entrance. "This is as close as we can get you," Inho told him over the radio. "The rest is up to you." Seok Jin's team included volunteers from every species in the Alliance. Bright Edge had volunteered his crystal-growing abilities to cut through the core consciousness's hull. A young Velnari named Quick Thought would use her telepathy to navigate the mental defenses inside Dot. As their small ship approached the core consciousness, massive tentacles reached out to grab them. Bright Edge fired crystal spears to cut through the organic cables while Quick Thought warned them about mental attacks trying to take over their minds. "I can feel it trying to understand us," she reported, her silver form flickering with strain. "It's learning our thoughts, our fears, our hopes, but it doesn't understand why we're willing to die for others." They found an opening in the core consciousness's hull and flew inside. The interior was like being inside a living creature. Walls that pulsed like heartbeats, floors that felt soft under their feet, and a constant humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere. "The center is this way," Quick Thought said, pointing down a corridor that glowed with organic light. "I can sense the main intelligence core, but there are defenses, mental traps designed to drive us insane." As they walked deeper into the structure, the core consciousness tried different attacks. It showed them visions of their home worlds being destroyed, their families being converted into swarm creatures, their own minds being absorbed into the collective. "Don't listen to it," Seok Jin ordered. "Remember why we're here. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for every free mind in the galaxy." They reached the center of the core consciousness, a vast chamber filled with organic computers and pulsing brain tissue. The intelligence that controlled the entire swarm was spread throughout this room like a living web of thought. Dr. Ha-un activated her virus weapon. "This will take a few minutes to upload. Can you hold them off?" Swarm creatures began pouring into the chamber. Not the insect-like soldiers they had fought before, but converted beings from dozens of different species. The core consciousness was throwing everything it had at them. Bright Edge grew crystal armor around his body and began fighting hand-to-hand with converted aliens. Quick Thought used her telepathy to confuse the enemy creatures, making them attack each other instead of the assault team. "Upload complete," Ha-un announced. "The virus is spreading through their network, but it will take time to work completely." "How much time?" Seok Jin asked as he fired at more swarm creatures. "Maybe 10 minutes for full system collapse." "We don't have 10 minutes," Bright Edge shouted as more enemies poured into the room. Seok Jin made the decision that would end the war. He activated the explosive charges they had brought as backup. "Everyone out! This place is going to blow!" But Quick Thought was trapped, surrounded by converted creatures. "I can't get through. Go without me." "No one gets left behind," Seok Jin said, running back to help her. "That's what makes us different from the swarm." Working together, they fought their way out of the chamber as the virus began taking effect. The core consciousness was screaming now, a sound that could be heard, even in the vacuum of space. Systems were failing throughout the massive structure. As the information virus spread like wildfire through the swarm network, the explosion that followed could be seen from 3 star systems away. The core consciousness, the ancient intelligence that had controlled the swarm for millions of years, was destroyed in seconds. Across the galaxy, swarm ships suddenly stopped moving as their controlling mind vanished. Back at Earth, the attacking swarm creatures simply collapsed as the network that coordinated them went silent. The humans who had been fighting them stood in the sudden quiet, hardly believing the war was over. "Is that it?" asked Mayor Sun Hee as she looked at the motionless swarm creatures in her city. "Are they all dead?" "Not dead," reported Dr. Kyung-ho Lim from his laboratory. "Without the core consciousness to control them, they're just reverting to basic animal behavior. They're no longer a threat. The cost of victory was enormous. Earth was scarred by battle, several alien worlds had been lost, and thousands of HFY ships would never return home. But the galaxy was free. 10 years later, Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood before the Galactic Assembly and spoke about the war that had changed everything. Humans had become the galaxy's protectors, not because they wanted to, but because they were the only ones who could do what was necessary when peace failed. We learned that sometimes, to preserve life, you must be willing to take life, he said. Admiral Jong-suk Kim read the intelligence report 3 times, hoping she had misunderstood something. She hadn't. The swarm was adapting faster than anyone had expected. "Show me the latest battle recordings," she told Major Yu Jin Choi, her intelligence officer. The hologram showed the recent battle at the Whisper Nebula. The swarm ships looked different now. Thicker armor, strange new weapons that fired sharp metal pieces like human guns. Worst of all, they were using human tactics, attacking in formation and targeting the weakest ships first. "They're learning from us," Yujin said. "Every battle teaches them more about how we fight." "How is that possible?" Jong-suk asked. "The swarm creatures we've captured are just dumb animals following orders." Yujin activated another hologram. This one showed a massive structure hidden in the center of what used to be the Helix Nebula. The structure was the size of a small moon, made of the same living metal as swarm ships. "We think this is the core consciousness," Yujin explained. "It's like the brain of the entire swarm. Every ship, every creature, every piece of the swarm is connected to it. When we fight their ships, the core consciousness learns our tactics." Jong-suk felt cold. "You're telling me we're fighting one giant enemy that gets smarter every time we hurt it?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you. And it's not just learning our weapons, it's learning our psychology. Look at this." The hologram changed to show the recent attack on Paradise Station. The swarm had done something new and terrible. Instead of just destroying the station, they had captured the civilians and broadcast their conversion into swarm creatures. The defenders had to choose between saving the civilians or protecting the military base. "They knew we would try to save the civilians," Yujin continued. "They used our own compassion against us. The aliens in that battle were so horrified by watching the conversions that half of them couldn't fight anymore." Jong-suk rubbed her temples. She had been fighting wars for 30 years, but this was different. How do you fight an enemy that learns from every battle and uses your own morals as weapons? "There's more," Yujin said quietly. "The aliens are having problems." She was right. Dr. Ari Nam had been sending reports about the alien soldiers' mental health. The Velnari were developing what she called telepathic trauma. Their ability to sense others' emotions made them feel every death in battle. Many of them couldn't sleep because they kept sensing the pain of dying swarm creatures. The Thexmol were having physical problems. Their crystal bodies were showing stress fractures from the emotional strain of war. Some of them had started growing, sharp spikes all over their bodies, making them dangerous even to their friends. Worst of all, a group of alien worlds led by the peaceful Lumara species had started secret talks with the swarm. Ambassador Dong Hyun Lee had discovered the meetings and was trying to stop them. "They think they can make peace with the swarm," Dong Hyun reported in his latest message. "They want to offer the swarm some worlds in exchange for leaving the rest alone." Jong-suk knew this was impossible. The swarm didn't make deals, it just consumed everything it touched. But she understood why the aliens wanted to believe otherwise. War was destroying them from the inside. The situation got worse when Dr. Kyung-ho Lim made a terrible discovery. He had been studying the outer edge of human space looking for signs of swarm scouts. What he found was much worse. "They're already here," he announced during the emergency meeting. "The swarm has been seeding our space with infiltrator organisms for weeks. They're preparing for a massive attack on Earth." The room went silent. Everyone had known this day might come, but they had hoped to stop the swarm before it reached. Humanity's homeworld. General Woo Jin Park was the first to speak. "How long do we have?" "Based on the pattern of infiltrator placement, maybe 2 weeks," Lim answered. "But that's not the worst part. The attack on Earth is a distraction. While we're defending our home, they're planning to hit the Confederation's core worlds at the same time." Jong-suk understood the strategy immediately. The swarm had learned that humans would do anything to protect their own people. By attacking Earth, they would force humanity to split its forces and leave the aliens vulnerable. It's a smart plan, she admitted. We can't let Earth fall, but we can't abandon our allies either. Maybe that's what they're counting on, said Captain Jae-hyun Kang, who had just arrived from the defense of Luna Base. They know we'll try to do both and fail at everything. The debate that followed was heated. Some officers wanted to focus all forces on defending Earth. Others argued that abandoning the aliens would mean the swarm would eventually consume everything anyway. Dr. Airi Nam spoke up from her position at the medical station. There's something else we need to consider. Our alien allies are breaking down. The Velnari pilots are having mental breakdowns mid-battle. The Thexmol soldiers are becoming so aggressive they attack their own teammates. If this continues much longer, we won't have any allies left. Then maybe it's time to end this war quickly, said General Wu Jin. We know where the core consciousness is. We've been planning an attack for weeks. Maybe we should stop planning and start acting. Jong-suk looked at the star map showing the core consciousness hidden in the Helix Nebula. It would take the largest fleet ever assembled to reach it. The mission would be incredibly dangerous and many ships would not return. The intelligence suggests the core consciousness is heavily defended, Yu-jin warned. We'd be flying into the heart of swarm territory. Even if we reached it, we might not be able to destroy something that massive. We have to try, Jong-suk said finally. If we wait much longer, we'll be too weak to make the attempt. The swarm is getting stronger while we're getting weaker. She activated the emergency communications system. All ships, all stations, this is Admiral Jong-suk Kim. Prepare for Operation Final Strike. We're taking the war to the enemy's home. As the preparations began, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Lum'ara had officially announced their intention to negotiate with the swarm. 3 more alien worlds had declared neutrality. The alliance was falling apart just when they needed it most. But there was good news too. Captain Sang-min Jeon reported that the mixed human-alien squadrons were finally working together smoothly. The aliens had learned human tactics while the humans had learned to use alien abilities. Together, they were more effective than either species alone. We might actually have a chance, Sang-min reported. If we can get close enough to the core consciousness, we have some ideas about how to hurt it. Dr. Haeun Choi had been working on those ideas. She had discovered that the swarm's greatest strength, their shared consciousness, might also be their greatest weakness. I've been developing a kind of virus, she explained. Not biological, but informational. Something that would spread through their network and cause system failures. But it has to be delivered directly to the core consciousness. Someone would have to get inside that thing. Jong-suk nodded grimly. She had expected as much. The final battle would require someone to fly into the heart of the enemy and deliver the killing blow personally. It was a suicide mission. I'll lead the final assault team, she announced. No, said Commander Seok Jin-yu, stepping forward. That's my job. You're needed to coordinate the main battle. Let me take a small team inside the core consciousness. Jong-suk looked at the young commander. He was brave, smart, and completely right. The admiral needed to stay with the fleet while someone else made the final sacrifice. As the meeting ended and officers hurried to prepare their ships, Jong-suk looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was preparing its own final assault. In 2 weeks, one side or the other would be finished forever. The price of war was always high. But this time it might be everything.